Hello, everyone. You're listening to the LNC Podcast. I'm Rob, your host, and every fortnight I sit down with Paul Saunders, psychologist and director of LN Consulting Australia. We sit down to explore the challenges and strategies of executive leadership. Let's get into it. And so, based on what you do, what does career planning look like today compared to, say, 5 or 10 years ago?
Good question. It has changed. It's certainly traditionally organisations would be very more focused, and people would focus their careers on going up. And it would be very common as you'd be trying to look for jobs to promote yourself. Because organisations have shifted the way they structure, the way there's more flexibility in work, and there's a need to look at probably how do I actually look at it as a matrix. So think about is how do I just build up experience? How do I build up my resumes in sense of capability and experience? So what I often find is some of the clients I work with in coaching and career planning, we map out what would be some options, both broader in the sense of building out their knowledge and expertise, as well as up. And so some of the steps sometimes means people go and actually do additional projects in their organisation to broaden out their experience and build up their careers, or they look at other organisations that will help expand them in their industry.
So they wouldn't be looking at doing so the pathway of getting a job and then staying in that industry for their 20, 30 years is no longer something that they do. That they're looking at expanding and going, how can I get 2 or 3 years out of this job so I can move on either in a upward trajectory or even like a linear sort of.
Yeah, you've got to think of it from the point of view is it conventionally will lead to keep going up. But what you've got to find out is how to also broaden it out, because that gives you a lot more transferable skills. Like you said, if I've got more broader experience, I can go from one industry to another. I don't have to be locked into an industry. I'm developing project management skills, leadership skills, a whole lot of technology, digital skills, whatever those fields are that are transferable. And because of the way the employment search engines work now, is that they're looking for that data. The AI systems and the words and the language is picking up based on your experience and the skill sets you're looking for. And so it's not going to be looking at, what companies per se. It's going to be looking more about what are your capabilities and experience.
So would that change the way that recruiters work as well? So they'd be looking for someone with a more broad scope of skills rather than a set range of knowledge in terms of recruiting for a business?
Yes, for more the general type roles, absolutely, in the sense of those sort of things. They're not concerned about whether you've just stayed in one organisation. They would actually prefer that if you looked at, you've shown the ability to adapt and change, because that's also very relevant, that flexibility. And so therefore they'll look for, have you been able to move? Have you broadened out your experience and ability to be effective? What often they're looking for is, what have you achieved in your career so far? So it's important to think about is when I go into a role, what's my goal in that role? What am I planning to achieve in this role? And that also, at the same time, the other strategy I find I encourage often when I'm talking about career planning is how to ensure you're building your networks. Because again, it's often through people that your career enhances as well. It's not purely about using recruitment agencies. And also if you are using recruitment agencies, then how do you build up relationships with them? So there's that networking inside the industry of recruitment, but it's also then the network in your own sort of particular area of interest or profession. The only difference will come into specialization when you're looking at professional groups, such if you're in the legal system. Naturally, having advancement is based on expertise and knowledge in your field. Medicine, in the health sector, similar sort of thing.
The academic sort of
fields, those sort of things, etc. There,
Okay. Well, then how can someone know if they're on the right path or just doing what they should be doing?
What I do when I'm coaching them, I help develop them a future plan. It's a bit of based on, where would you be in 5 years? And we talk about lifestyle. What do you think you'll be doing? Sense of those sort of things. What would you like to have achieved in that 5 years? Sometimes we go further depending on the person's sort of interest and where their stage of career is at, to help them think forward and help them say, okay, now walk backwards. What would that look like in the sense of the type of work you do? And so focus on that. The other factor I incorporate into that is sometimes some assessment of their personality or looking at what their strengths are. So they've got that recognition and self-awareness, because this is very relevant when you're going for interviews. And this is very relevant when you're planning out, what do I really prefer to do? What do I really like to do? What gives me satisfaction? And the other level is your values. What you believe in can have an influence about the passion or commitment you have to a certain work area. I've met with people who are very passionate about their field. Say, for example, when I do some work in the health sector, they're very committed and the work is very demanding, but it's their values that keep them going, that keep them involved, and they see their career path building in that way. So often I find those three things: look at your values, your personality, your characteristics, your strengths, and then also what are you looking for in the future? And then we build a career whole plan that fits with a life plan. And then we do the next stage. Now let's look at, for the next year or two, what would be the type of work. So then we bring it down into a short-term goals.
Oh, yeah. So that's a good, I think that's a good way of setting things up, because I remember when I was working in hospitality and I knew the trajectory I was going, and I knew that in 5 years' time I could be in a position where I would be quite comfortable, but I knew that I didn't want to go that way. I knew that, and I had to go back and start again on a different ladder in a different area. But now I have that broad experience that I can do other things. And I think that's when it comes down to sort of values and what you want.
That's
right. But I also think that when you said about the hospitality work at the hospital, working with hospital staff and how need a drink?
Sure, that's right.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting when you said about hospital workers and how their values drive them in the career that they are in, because I think if you don't have a passion, especially in that area, you're not going to last like 5 years.
Yeah, and that's the challenge sometimes. There's a high burnout in those sort of industries. So you've got to think about, why am I actually doing this? It's very demanding. It's often very challenging because you're helping people, but it could be in very difficult circumstances. So the good thing is when I work with those, I often try and work with their organisations about helping what are the support services to ensure a person can have a career and also be that resilient, so it's sustainable. So that's often the other factor when looking at your career path. How is your resilience when you're going into careers that are challenging? What's that sustainability of doing it? And that even when I find people who are in call centres, customer service, or even in management, when I work as a coach for executives, it's a very demanding role, sometimes very lonely. Sometimes they come to me because they're looking for that extra support. And I help them look at their career path.
No one that they can turn to.
Yeah, so they can plan out their career. They can work it out with someone in confidence to map out where do they go as they've got to that senior level. Because at that end of it's a very pointy end. It's not a lot of options. You have to actually be a lot more clearer about what are my choices going to be when I get to that more senior level.
Yeah, because I guess like the higher up you go, the less people there are to lean on.
And less positions.
Yeah.
So, it's less people to lean on because it's still a competitive market.
And if you can find in that one organisation, you've got no one to ask for help because the people that have that experience are not there anymore. Like you're the one in charge.
That's right.
And you can't ask down because then you lose that respect and leadership sort of ability when it comes to your team members.
That's right. I mean, you wouldn't go to your people and call people thinking, I'm thinking of developing my career so I can move on. So, unless there's that open, unless there's a good culture that's open and honest and wanting to encourage that. But for a lot of organisations, senior leaders looking at come to me around coaching for career planning when they know, okay, I've been working in this area, I'm really good at it, but they've started to, I guess I say lose their mojo a bit or, their motivation, or they're looking for that next step. Looking for what's that next challenge. And so often help them work through a plan that will help them still enjoy what they're doing in the short term with the intent of where will they move forward. And sometimes people want to step up in their organization, but that also means to be the CEO, but they know they've got to compete.
Yeah.
It's only one position. It's often a competitive environment at that level. And so it's often about learning some techniques, how to actually achieve that CEO level. And there are ways that works more effective than others. And that's what I often help in the coaching I do with senior leaders is what are those techniques that helps you achieve to become a CEO?
So based on the way that the world is at the moment, the current geopolitical climate, for someone that's looking to move up in a career, what would your advice be in terms of what their next move should be? Should they take the risk now of jumping ship to start something new, or hold in place for 6 to 12 months just to see how everything's going to turn out?
Look, there'll always be a constant change in the geopolitical situation. We may have some challenges now. We've had previous challenges such as the GFC, and often ups and downs in recession. When they had COVID, that created another challenge. So there'll never be a perfect time in the sense of when you're looking at that career. What I often help people do is look at it. What's your own situation? In the sense of your financial stability, your family, your own personal stability, those sort of things. And what are you looking for to help you move? Interesting enough is that sometimes in change and crisis is often when a good time to move. When an organization it's amazing how many times I see when an organization goes through a restructure, a new CEO comes on board, lots of movement happens. CEOs have a common habit of bringing in people they know. And so there's a movement at that senior level and that flows down through the group. Often then sense of that. One of the techniques that I have found helps with career planning is find yourself a mentor. Or if you're looking at wanting to go into leadership, find a leader that you really admire, want a role model, or, that is very helpful for you. And often I find if they move, well, then you move. So because you think of it, CEOs have built up trust at that senior level of key people. They know people who have got strengths they don't have or capabilities that can help them work through.
Sort of like an entourage, like
an
inner circle.
Yeah, it's inner circle stuff. And that's often happens. You'll have an inner circle at an executive level. And it's a matter of, and often you find is they'll move and they'll bring, because they trust them. They know they've got a job to do to make a change or bring in improvements or stabilize an organization or grow it. Any of those factors, they'll bring people in. They may keep some people if they can trust and build that relationship internally. But it takes a bit of work to make that all happen together. And if you're in that career path of looking to be a leader, think about is how do I establish myself with my inner network? And again, that's why the skill of networking, the skill of being adaptive. And when we look at leadership styles in today's geopolitical environment, you've got to understand that you've got to take into account external stakeholders now, as well as your internal organization at that senior level career path. How good are you at managing external stakeholders and being aware of your time with them? Because they have an influence now over the dynamics that happens in an organization, whether it's around digital transformation, AI, whether it's around sustainability and environment, social governance type requirements. All those have influences from the industry, external and government, and you've got to know how to manage that. This is where I found some senior leaders have come unstuck, is that they haven't worked on that component with their customers and suppliers. And they often then are found to be not as effective in their role, good at vertical management. They're traditionally trained to be good at managing people down below them, but they often aren't good at managing peers or working with peers and with external groups. And this is often the work I do in my more executive coaching and career planning, how to ensure that people have got that capability, because that's a skill that can be transferred to any industry and in any country. It works really well when I work with executives or senior leaders who are looking for a career path that will take them into a more a global organization.
Okay. So what do you say, like when you're talking about AI and the change of technology, what should someone who's been watching and overseeing the changes that AI is doing, should they be embracing this change to further aid in their career planning and their career trajectory, or should they be more concerned about the industry that they're in and using it as a way to, you find that like there's a lot of people that are saying that they don't want AI, it's going to take their jobs away, but then there's other people that are using it to take advantage of the new technology now. What would be the best strategy for someone that finds that they don't understand the AI, but it's going to become a huge part of their business?
Yeah, I think it's again that one of the characteristics we find of successful leaders who have good careers is their willingness to be open and continually learn. They know that they've got to keep learning because industries to keep growing and developing. So that willingness, okay, AI is a new technology coming into all industries. Part of the focus you need to have is where do I create time to learn about it? First thing to do is learn about it and acknowledge if you have got some worry about it, think about is write yourself some questions. What do I need to get answered here? And how do I actually go and look for that in what AI can do for me and for my organization? So they're the sort of things to start mapping it out. Because you could get hyped up and go into catastrophe thinking, oh, it's going to take a change for everything. What we're going to do is a bit more selective. What do we want to use AI for in our organization? What's the purpose? And again, this is where coaching, when I do some team coaching with senior leaders, that they're clear about how does this relate already to their digital strategy. And then what's the communication you're going to talk to their teams about? If there are changes, what does that look like in the sense of what AI might pick up? AI, the leadership component of a role won't be taken over by AI. People will still want to go and talk to people.
Yeah.
Even though the technology will be there to offer them short, quick solutions, AI is not at that stage where we can deal with complexity. Problem solving at a systemic level, which is what senior leaders, middle management leaders, anyone who wants to become that leadership need to have that ability to solve complex problems skills and understand how to work through a process of change.
Do you think so? I think my opinion, I think AI will be good for senior leaders because it could be a sort of companion for them to sort of brainstorm, use it to sort of ask it for a few different variations of a certain sort of plan that they want to do, or even as a little assistant that they need to get through to make their day even more optimized for what they need to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think but then they need to understand that they need to take a lot of time to learn about it outside of work hours in order to develop.
Can be in their outside work hours, can be in their work hours. If they're planning it out, hopefully is that they set it up even with their colleagues and team. We need to all learn about this. Set it up as part of their development plans or performance plans for the next year, how much we needed to learn about and where we
integrate the training into with their teams.
Yeah, you integrate that. And that's where we find works best because then people realize it's part of their development for their role, looking at it there. And the best thing is also is then do it as an experimental process. Let's trial this. Rather than say, oh, we're going to do this, actually trial things. I've got a global organization I do executive coaching with in the manufacturing, fast-moving consumer goods area. And they've been trialing it through his MS Teams and using their transcript and summary notes. So they don't have to have any note taking anymore. It's all done through their AI. They've all got Copilot because they use Microsoft. And so they're encouraging their teams to do that for doing some sort of articles, memos, things like that sort of stuff, reports, as long as they're also checking that its quality and things like that. It's sort of always because we've got to check, the references, the facts that comes up in AI.
You still need the human
input
throughout the entire process.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, because we know there's also a lot of junk on the internet. So you've got to make sure is the information I've got, and what we often highlight is a two-source reference. Are you checking the source and the references that you're actually using this data? And if you're going to put forward a new business case and you've used AI to use that data, See, it's where we create efficiencies. It doesn't necessarily take away a person's role, but if I can actually reduce your administration and by this efficiency by 10 or 20%, I can actually then use your skills and knowledge in other ways. More time for you to be using your intelligence rather than following process.
That's why I think it's interesting. It's handy because it'll get rid of all of the mundane tasks that organizations have to do.
Can be.
Like a lot of admin work, a lot of spreadsheets and all that sort of stuff. AI will be able to do all that sort of stuff to allow, but it doesn't mean that you need to make everyone redundant.
No.
You can then utilize them to do things that will improve the business long term as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very interesting to see where it's going to be heading. I think and it's helping small businesses as well. So like people that are trying to run a business that are only leading a team of 5.
That's right.
And they use the AI to then enhance all of their roles by giving them, they're all got their own little assistants and things like that to help them in their role.
Yeah, that's right. And when you're looking at career planning, it is really important because recruitment agencies and the search engines all use an AI in the back end to do some analysis, processing, and things like that. Just like you said, they've made it very efficient for them. But that means is when you put a resume in, it's often now an AI system that's actually checking your resume, not a person.
Yeah.
So again, you've got to know about that. You've got to know how to work that, understand.
Kind of like what's the
language. Yes, that's right. That's it. So yeah, think about that.
SEO for AI, resume checking.
Yeah, and there'll be more and more of that. And so if you are looking at your career planning, think about okay, once I put my resume out there, if I apply for a job, where does it go? How do I manage that? Those type of things. And we're often finding you can't just have one CV that'll go out for everything. You need to tailor it to the job description, the advertising, the selection criteria, the particular emphasis you want to have for that particular role based on your strengths and achievements.
Yeah, so it's no longer just walking into an office and saying, here's my resume.
No.
You need to have I remember you were telling me a story once. Was it someone that sent it to you when you were doing interviews? Someone sent you their resume with a tea bag in it. And it said, like, have this while you read my resume.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Which certainly grabbed my attention, and it was novel, and so it was creative. And I was looking for a person who had some innovation thinking. So we did interview that person, and yes, they actually got the job.
So you need to do that, but
you can't do that
for AI.
Online. That's right. You've got to be able to have something of AI.
So you need to make it. Yes. I think that's that. But the AI can then help you with that because you can make individualized resumes for individual businesses and corporations that you're applying for.
Yes, that's right.
So you could give the AI the resume. It's like, so this is what I want it to look like for this industry.
Yes.
Or for this business. That will tailor it to them to make it more unique for them to read.
Yes, that's
and then
right.
they can change it for another business. So their odds of getting it, because of the job market is very tough at the moment. I've seen some job applications have 50 to 60 applicants for one role.
Yes.
And it's tough. And so having that edge with utilizing the AI to help you with that would be ideal.
I agree. And that's where I encourage when I'm doing some career planning for people who are looking at building up their career path, that they're testing their resume by putting it into AI and seeing what does AI summarize that as, and get some feedback. Use it as a bit of a feedback tool. The AI will give you feedback on those sort of things. So therefore you can look at refining it and getting that before you put it on the search engine, before you hand it over to Indeed or Seek or any of the other sort of platforms.
And then they need to realize they can't just give them the exact format that the AI made for them because they will all end up looking the same.
That's right.
So you need to still make your own human input, personalize it yourself.
Yeah, that's right. You need to make still a figure. But there is some templates. Like this is where you, again, if you're in that career stage where you're wanting to build up your career, ensure you're looking at those platforms, Indeed and Seek and others, because they'll actually have a lot of education material now. Here's a template for your job application. Here's how to apply it for jobs.
Put it in the format that they want.
Yes, and what they're doing is guiding. So it's worth taking that on board and taking that into account when you're looking at that. When you're at a more senior level, it's different. The senior level is still requiring some AI, but executive search groups still rely on their networks to identify people who they think would be relevant for a job. Not all executive positions you see are advertised.
Or it's more of a tap on the shoulder sort of thing.
That's right. Or they may be advertised.
Or a LinkedIn message.
That's right. But there's also executive search companies reach out through their database or through their contacts to people. Would you be interested? Here's a job coming up. I know you have. Just want to check. Are you interested in moving? And so again, this comes back to is senior leaders having their external network, keeping up to date, relevant to people they know. And that's particularly as they want to look at broadening out their capability, heading towards more of whether a regional role or a country role, those type of things. The advantage I'm seeing now too since COVID is that organisations are far more acceptable of remote and flexible work. So I've got executives here based in Australia, and their positions are based and head office is based out of the US or United Kingdom.
Yeah.
So
gives it that more freedom,
absolutely.
more career options as well.
Yeah.
So that has actually broadened the scope for applications around the world.
Absolutely, yeah. The advantage it is, organisations are now getting the best person for the role, not because they're just in their country. They're getting the best person who's going to be right for that.
This person lives 20 k's away from the office. They have the skill set.
That's right.
They're the only person we can find.
Yeah. So now we've got a broader pool of options because we're all very happy now to use MS Teams or Zoom and processes like that to connect. It still requires travel, but that person is going to be traveling anyway at that senior executive level. It's just how it's managed. Sense of that. So I've got people who manage a team who are all in different countries. An executive who's got, leaders in Japan, leaders in Malaysia, leaders in Singapore, and he's based here in Melbourne in Australia, and he works it really well. But it is a skill to learn at this senior level. How do I manage a flexible hybrid work environment?
So would you say that? So the leadership leading a team in a face-to-face workplace and hybrid teams that you only see via Zoom or MS Teams, would that be an added skill that you would need
to learn? It's an added skill, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You can't do the same techniques that you would do in the office when you're doing it through someone that's on the other side of the world.
At the base level, it's still about, are you a collaborative leader, adaptive? Are you open for development? Are you a coach? Is one of the key strengths we're finding that works really well with a flexible workplace, because you have to move away from the autocratic, the directive more style that was if people in the office or you're in an operational where everyone's together and you can just direct them. That's a very different style, and we also find that generations coming through, they don't want that controlled micromanagement,
hierarchy system,
hierarchical system, so they're expecting the more ability to be able to work on autonomously how they can solve problems or work in teams, how they can work together. So they need a bit of flexibility. So the leaders need to encourage that.
So they need to influence more than just give directives.
Yes, that's right. This is again comes back to have they got really good coaching skills? Have they got abilities to influence? Have they an ability to engage? So if I'm on an MS Teams or I'm face to face, have I got the skills to do both and engage people? This is where I found a number of leaders have struggled with how do they get engagement or connection when I'm working someone virtually. And it's a skill and a mindset that's got to be developed. And again, going forward, recruitment agencies and organisations will look for, have you got that ability? That's going to be a capability they're going to be able to look for, is particularly if you are looking for global roles or country national role where your teams will be spread out.
So it would be a new skill set that would be added to.
There'll be questions that we ask. I mean, in your interviews, give us an example of where you've managed a flexible workforce. How did you manage that? How did you deal with teams who were working in different countries or different states? Yes.
And so when it comes to career planning, how important do you think is LinkedIn when it comes to sort of managing your career?
Well, I certainly know from my contacts in the recruitment world is that they always use LinkedIn as part of their process of checking. So they either use it as
to have that up to date then.
Absolutely. It's got to be aligned to your resume. So they actually use it as a bit of a check. Okay, your resume says this. What is LinkedIn showing? Is there a match? That's one thing. to a number of them use LinkedIn because LinkedIn is a recruitment process platform as well. People put their jobs up there and people use it to connect with people. And so again, some agencies may reach out to people in their LinkedIn network as part of the process of finding the right person for that role they've been paid to find.
Yeah.
So it's a very strong connection and important of that. And again, this comes back to is how up to date and how active are you on LinkedIn? Not in that you're out there selling, but hopefully are you part of networks and groups on LinkedIn? Are you regularly sort of putting a post about, something that people would be interested in learning or engaging with?
LinkedIn have courses now as well. They have people, so you can post, like I've seen a lot of people at the moment are posting whenever they do a course on LinkedIn that they post about it. It says what they've learned a new skill and things like that.
That's it, yeah. Because that's the sort of things that will come up when you're ready for that next move. And this is the challenge I find for some people. It makes sense. They've got a job, they're in the job, so they stop doing all those things, because I think, LinkedIn's only when I'm looking for work.
So,
but then, I'm catching up.
It's also a networking tool that can help you as well.
That's right. And then they come to me for the career planning 3 or 4 years later and saying, and they haven't been on LinkedIn for 3 or 4 years, haven't shown any presence. That makes, there's a lot of catch up then to do.
Yeah. Things change, especially when it comes to the online media. It changes and so rapidly that everything that you've been doing 4 years ago when you updated LinkedIn is no longer relevant.
Yes, that's it. And that's where sometimes I am helping some, particularly the more senior leaders who haven't quite come on board about that whole social media. What's the purpose of their role of social media like LinkedIn and other type of avenues for their profile and their career path?
Yeah, I think it's important that they need to realize that social media is now what TV was when it came out.
Yeah, I guess it's a good way to look at it.
When the TV came out, people were listening to the radio saying, "Why would I want to watch that on the TV?" Like, they wouldn't let their kids watch it.
Yes, that's right.
There was all this thing, and it's the same thing now. Social media is now TV, but everyone can have a TV show. Everyone can be on there, and at the moment, it's still free.
Yes.
But it's not going to be free forever. So if they utilizing it now while these platforms are still making it free.
That's right. Yeah. But the other part though is to see senior leaders are needing to be able to be confident with social media because it's now used internally in the organizations. I had a number of executives I was coaching, particularly through COVID and then post-COVID, is that they were using video podcasts internally. So they have their own internal process, own internal marketing, social media people who were creating these to keep people up to date, keep people okay about recognizing things are working. We're still able to work, particularly because everyone was working from home. That's continued on since then, and it's even stronger. An expectation is for any senior leader that you'll be doing some sort of video podcast internally as a way of communication, not just emails, and there's more and more.
Yeah, you can't just send an email update.
No. Yeah. And eventually the generations coming through don't like email.
No.
So that's the other thing you've got to be aware of is
they've grown up on the phone. They've grown up with social media.
Yeah.
Video is their medium.
That's right.
And it's a good, because during COVID when I was working at the travel company, our CEO would post a video from his house every week, I think it was, and it was just an update on how everyone was going.
That's right.
Because people were so far away from everywhere, and it's in that industry. It's probably the only travel company that's still here that didn't go under over.
There you go.
There's just because and the people that are there now were still there. Like they're still there today.
We kept people engaged, it kept them loyal, kept them connected, and so they stayed. This is where some leaders misunderstood what was they needed to do in their role. Is that they thought they could, I had one leader who I was coaching came to me one day and he said, "Paul, I go into the office and I can't get any of my work done." I said, "Well, that's because you go in the office now to engage, to work together and team and collaborate. Hopefully the only times you go in the office now in a flexible workplace where his teams are only coming in 2 or 3 days a week, you're using that time to lead others and work with others, coach them, those sort of stuff. Your own individual work is what you're doing at home.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of thinking is how you're structuring your role now and the type of work and where you do it becomes a lot more relevant too. Like you said, that leader you highlighted, that's a strong way of keeping people connected. And it's again how effective leaders are of using social media and virtual systems to engage is a really important skill in a career path.
Yeah, I think even and by being able to use video and presenting on camera is also beneficial for their public speaking.
Yes,
And
good point.
like that's one of Warren Buffett's like I saw a video of someone asking him the question like, what's one skill in your career that you think everyone should have? And he said public speaking, because it's an asset if you have it.
Yes.
And if you don't have it, you're not going to get to the levels that you need to be at, because you need to be not just presenting to your own team, but you need to present to board members or big groups of people that you need to influence. If you don't have that public speaking practice and skill, you're not going to be able to get the messages across that you need to be able to support or grow yourself in your career.
Yeah. And that's, again, helping when I do work with leaders as a coach, and part of it often is about how to build up their confidence so they can stand in front of their board and present confidently. I mean, would you follow somebody who stands up and they're really nervous, they fumble over the words, they don't come across as confident, and yet they're talking about, important change in their organization? It's the stuff, and it's so important that you've got those communication skills of public speaking, and it's at different levels too. This is a thing that often is misunderstood. Public speaking means I've got to be able to talk in front of a big audience.
I need to figure out I need to be big and loud,
all that stuff, and that's not necessarily. I've found highly effective introverts leaders who are really good communicators. They just know is when they have to do that big piece, they can. But they're far more effective, though, at the smaller ones in their team meetings. Facilitating and being a really good communicator at that level is really powerful. To be able to do it with your peers, stakeholders, those type of things are just as important to have those confident communication techniques. So they're the sort of things that you're right in the sense of those needs to have a leader to be at that senior level. Public speaking, or the ability to be confident, stand in front of others.
Communication skills
at that level, because that helps influence. That's helping people learn what are the things that there are particular techniques that influence people.
Yeah.
And it's just knowing what they are and how to use them in a strong professional way.
So when it comes to career planning, and you're on the way to where you want to be in your career, and then it's derailed by a personal tragedy or burnout or a disruption, whether you're made redundant, what advice do you give to leaders when that's happened to them?
Yeah, no, exactly right. It's a challenge and it can happen. No matter how much you plan, what I often say to people when they're doing this is you have to accept not everything's in your control. There are external situations, like you said. A new CEO. I'm working with an executive at the moment. He's in a global company. Their head office is in the US. The US political environment has changed the dynamics of their organization. New CEOs come in and new CFOs come in, and so everything that has changed for this leader that I'm working with, and so we're doing a plan B. In looking at creating an option of best way of exiting if they need to
help parachute to get them.
Yeah, it's just this process to work through. And it's often say to senior leaders, there's this issue of like staying in one company forever is not something you need to have in your head. It's not a relevant, helpful mindset. You always got to be prepared to have a plan B. And honestly, you're making the choice then. It's your employability, your career, not linked to just an organization, because organizations change. Board members, if they change, can change the organization too. Shareholders coming in will influence, particularly certain stakeholders will want to shift. Sometimes, as happened in the mining industries, in the energy industries, have come in and changed the way things are going.
So it's almost, if you're set, it's almost a detriment if you are thinking that you're going to be in the one company for the rest of your career.
Yes.
Because then you don't have these backups in place.
That's right.
In case you get made redundant or the company goes under or something tragic happens to you and you can't no longer work in that industry anymore.
Absolutely. That's where I find I do help some people. I had a lady, she'd worked in the same company for 15 years. She was really good at it, stuff like that. But the redundancy took her by surprise, and it's really shocked her. And it's made it really challenging for her to now have that confidence to change. So that's what I'm working on. It's about how to build up her own confidence to make that change now, and to start looking at it. She hasn't applied for a job for 15 years. You know, her LinkedIn, everything. We're back to the beginning of looking at that. Even though she's got 15 years of experience, she got promoted into that organisation to a manager level, but the organisation changed on her.
She's taken the redundancy personally.
Absolutely. Yeah. And most people do, even though, particularly when it's happened to them. If they've given the choice, can I take a redundancy and I can pay off my house? I know a lot of people have done that and very happy to move on. And I've
definitely worked in a career where I wanted to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, redundancy happens to you and they're not ready. And so it takes a bit of psychological help. And that's where, again, having a background in psychology and being a psychologist and a coach, I often help people with their mindset and the psychological skills to help them reset, restructure their plans, belief in themselves and moving forward. And
it's about building that resilience to bounce back.
Yeah, ability to bounce back. Yes.
Right, well, I think that's a great spot to leave it at. I think. Yeah. I think we'll.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great to talk to you.
All right. Well, we'll see you on the next episode then.
Thank you.